بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبع هداه واقتفى أثره إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, today we'll finish the introduction of this great book. Last lesson we talked about the Sahaba, their place in Islam. We mentioned some narrations, talked about the greatness of the Sahaba. We stopped with the author described the Sahaba as being al-ghur. Okay, this refers to a hadith in which Prophet ﷺ described his ummah, his nation, of being al-ghur al-muhajjalin. Ghur, okay, ghur means basically a whiteness in the forehead of horses. So if you have a horse and you see sometimes it had this whiteness on its forehead, that is what ghur means. Muhajjalin means a similar whiteness on the hooves of the forehead of these horses. And it's considered a good attribute for a horse to have this whiteness on it. Prophet ﷺ said, on the day of resurrection, my followers will be called al-ghur al-muhajjalin, and that will be a result of the traces of ablution. When we make wudu, we wash our hands, nose and mouth, we wash our faces, we wash our arms. That will result in us having white marks on our faces and on our forearms. That's what's meant by this hadith. In the hereafter, we will have similar whitenesses to the horses on our foreheads and arms as a result of performing wudu, and this will be unique only for our nation. Muhammad said in another hadith, my ummah, my nation, will come to drink from my hawd, or my big lake, which I feed people from, or I give people to drink from on the Day of Judgment. This great lake, I will be there and I will stop people and push people away from this lake and prevent them from drinking this lake, to allow my nation to drink from this lake alone. Just as a person drives other people's camels away from the water to allow his camels to drink. The Sahaba said, O Messenger of Allah, would you recognize us on that day? He replied, yes, you will have marks which other people will not have. You will come to me with white blazes or marks on your foreheads and white marks on your feet and arms because of the trace of ablution. Sorry, this hadith says feet only, because of the trace of ablution. And if I remember, there was another hadith which I mentioned just before, which talks about the arms as well. So feet and arms. The author said, the greatest duty after finishing this and talking about the Sahaba and about al-ghur al-muhajjalin and what it means, how the Sahaba are blessed, the author talked about may Allah be pleased with the tabi'in and whoever followed them in righteousness and guidance. Okay, the tabi'in are the followers of the Sahaba. So a Sahabi is someone who met Muhammad ﷺ as a Muslim and died as a Muslim. A Tabi'i is someone who met the Sahaba as a Muslim and died as a Muslim. Prophet said in Hadith, the greatest of generations are my generation, then those that follow them, then those that follow them. So these three generations are the great generations, the Sahaba, the Tabi'in, and Tabi'id Tabi'in. All three have a lofty status in Islam and deserve respect. The author then talked about the different works he's written in Aqidah and why he wrote this book. He said, the greatest duty is to believe in the oneness of Allah Almighty. It is the first matter that we are accountable for on the Day of Judgment. Calling people to this Tawheed is among the greatest of good deeds. It's the first mandatory act upon us. It is therefore the duty of the Prophets and should be performed by those righteous men who follow in the footsteps of the Prophets. We never sent a messenger before you, O Muhammad, without revealing to him, there is no God worthy of worship but me, so worship me alone. Just as believing in Tawheed is the greatest of good deeds, Tawheed is the greatest field of knowledge. So obviously, the greatest deed is connected to the greatest field of knowledge. And studying it is the greatest type of education and study. Allah Azza wa Jal, the author says, has blessed him by enabling him to write a series of books related to Tawheed and Aqidah. The first of these books is a book that goes by the title of The Path to Guidance. This book, the author says, is a great starting point for whoever wants to study Islamic Aqidah. It explains much of the complicated aspects of Aqidah in a simple manner, making it a great starting point for he who is a beginner. It's well sourced in the Quran and Sunnah and looks at how Aqidah is embedded into many different fields of Islamic knowledge. It also shows some of the books that can be considered trustworthy places to dive deeper into the science of Aqidah. The second book the author wrote is called The People of Bid'ah. In this book, he looks into the evils of innovation within Islam generally and within the concept of bid'ah, warns from the evils of following the path of innovators, and explains the stance of Muslims from these innovations. The third and by far most important book, according to the author, is The Ideology of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. To write this book, the author said that he relied on a large number of Musnad Hadith books. A Musnad Hadith book is a book which mentions Hadith according to the narrator. So, Abdullah, for example, is a narrator of Hadith. He has 1,000 Hadiths. All these Hadiths are mentioned together, regardless of what topic they're talking about. They will move on to the next narrator, and the next narrator, and thereon. Instead of saying, for example, Tawheed, Hadiths about Tawheed. It says the Hadiths of Abdullah, then the Hadiths of Khalid, so on and so forth. Okay. And the author also says that he relied on a large number of modern Islamic books that differed greatly in length and depth. Some of these books had notable problems with them, which he considered and didn't obviously write in his books and addressed accordingly. The book was written in a manner that was kind of, you could say, well organized and simple. After reading these 3 books, the first short book, the second book looking at the bid'ah, and the third book, which is more of an in-depth book, the author performed istikhara, which is a form of asking Allah Azza wa Jal whether one should do a matter or not. After performing istikhara and making dua, he decided to write this small book in which Aqidah is summarized in its entirety. Many of the real-life problems related to Aqidah that Muslims face today have been discussed in this book. Allah, the author says, blessed me by making this book accepted by a number of trustworthy scholars who then revised it and assisted me in perfecting this book. May Allah grant them the greatest of rewards. And if you look at the Arabic version of the book, which I'm currently working on translating, there is a large number of scholars who wrote the, you could say, approval of this book and how they like this book and supported it. Okay, the author said, I have called this book Durrat al-Bayan fi Usul al-Iman. It was only through the mercy of Allah and His guidance that I managed to complete this book. He then says, to Allah do I pray that this book will keep me company in my grave, be a cause for me to rejoice on the day of resurrection, cause me to receive my record in my right hand, and to make it beneficial to my fellow believers in this world and the hereafter. May Allah send His blessings and prayers upon His favorite Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions and his family. And finally, all praise are due to Allah, Lord of the universe. Okay. This last paragraph, I think we should look at a little bit. So, author said, to Allah do I pray that this book will keep me company in my grave. In your grave, you are kept company by the deeds you do. You can have what appears to be a good-looking person, a nice, good-looking person, who is your companion in your grave, if your deeds are good. When you ask this person who they are, this person will say, I am your deeds. However, if your deeds are evil, you then have a scary, terrifying person in you with your grave. When you ask him who he is, he says, I am your evil deeds. That's what's meant by keeping company in my grave. Obviously, be a cause for me to rejoice on the day of judgment, because in hereafter, our good deeds and bad deeds are laid in front of us, and we rejoice when looking at our good deeds and are saddened when we look at our bad deeds. Cause for me receiving my book in my right hand. Okay, day of judgment, the books of deeds that people have done are thrown. Okay, so in this world, you have 2 angels, an angel on your right side and your left side. One angel writes down your good deeds, the one on your right side, and the one on your left side writes down your evil, bad deeds. These are all recorded. Day of judgment, the books of deeds that you have are thrown into the air. They fly and they land in your hands. It either lands in your right hand, meaning you're a good person, and that the good in this book is more than the evil, and you will inshallah be from among those who go to paradise. We ask Allah to receive our books in our right hands. Or you can receive your book in your left hand behind your back, as the hadith says. And as the ayahs say. If you receive your book in your left hand behind your back, that is a terrible sign, and that means that the evil in your book is more than your good, and it's a warning for the punishment that waits you in the hereafter. He then asked Allah that this book be beneficial for the Muslims and sent salawat and salam upon Muhammad ﷺ and his companions and his family. With this, the author ended the introduction of his book. This book, I believe, is very beneficial. I studied it and it is very concise. It covers just about all aspects of Aqidah in a simple manner. Unfortunately, it's simple in Arabic, not so simple in English. So I'm working on translating this book and writing up an explanation built upon mainly the actual explanation of the author. He has videos in which he explains the book and adding things that I see appropriate, wherever I see I should add them. Obviously, I also took away some of the details because his explanation is a bit detailed, and I think it's too detailed for these kind of lectures. Inshallah, I ask Allah to guide us and to make these lectures beneficial to the Muslims. And I'm currently working on translating this book and maybe writing it and publishing it. Inshallah, that is of benefit to this ummah. Next lesson, inshallah, we start the actual book looking at the actual concept of Aqidah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.